welcome to Getting to Know, the new Molloy Athletics web series. We are joined by women's tennis freshman Kailey Chin. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
To start the interview, you guys had a great fall season. You made the playoffs, and you really improved a lot from the season before that. But being your first year at Molloy and making the playoffs, and then I'm sure you're looking forward to that spring season, how has your time away from the court been?
Actually, fortunately enough, I live pretty close to a tennis court and I have access to it. So I've been training for the most part. I mean, my spring season personally would have been cut short regardless of COVID. Not cut short, but I would have had to start a lot later than everybody else because I got into a little incident and I was hit by a car while crossing the street. And so due to those injuries, I would have had to sit out a few games anyway. So, I mean, even beyond COVID, I was kind of in the mindset of not being able to play for a bit. But I'm really, really happy that I'm able to get back on the court and train and everything now.
How are you feeling?
Feeling a lot better, actually. Pretty close to 100, which is great. Definitely way better than the past couple of months. So can't complain.
It's a pretty serious accident, so we're glad that you're doing better and you're back on the court. What are some other things besides training that you've been up to since the season ended and since you've been home? You're back in Jamaica, right?
Yep. Well, for the most part, I've been doing a lot of cooking and baking. I run a little business down here where I essentially I sell these chocolate chip cookies that everybody seems to love. So that's been keeping me busy. I've been reading a lot. I started gardening. I've picked up a few hobbies. So I'm definitely staying busy and trying to maximize on the time.
That's awesome. And once you get back on campus, Kelly knows I could go for a good chocolate chip cookie in the midday. So I'd love to try them out.
Sure.
We know classes are over, but how were online classes for you and how was that adjustment?
Well, going back to what I had said about the whole accident, so even about 2 weeks before spring break it was when I got hit. I had to stop school essentially because of the concussion I got during the accident, and so I mean that made my transition even more difficult because I had missed 2 weeks of school, and then on top of that I had to deal with transitioning back to living at home, transitioning to online. So it was definitely really, really challenging. But I came out pretty well. My grades are great. My finals went well. I mean, not the usual 4.0 that I'm accustomed to, but definitely I can't knock my achievements this semester given the circumstances.
That's fantastic. And I'm a little hesitant to ask this as a tennis player because I know you guys are all super involved. But so on top of the gardening and the baking, what are some other things that you're liking to do in your free time when it's just you can do whatever you want to do? What do you like?
In my free time, I spend way too much time watching Netflix since I've been home because when I'm at school, I'm really, even if I do have free time, I'm usually spending it with other people or around campus or working. So I mean, now that I have all this free time to watch Netflix, I've been definitely doing a bit too much of that. But as the time passes, I'll definitely get better with that kind of stuff.
Very nice. And you guys are a very close group, very involved in the Molloy community and contribute a lot to the community. What was your reaction of the season ending? You weren't able to play in the spring season, but just not seeing your teammates and spending that time with them.
It was definitely a big adjustment. Just even leaving campus, being away from everybody that I've befriended over the past couple of months, it was definitely challenging. It's really easy to feel isolated in this kind of time, but my team's been keeping in touch for the most part. We have Zoom calls every now and again, so that's definitely been helpful to maintain some of the normalcy in such a unprecedented time. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely devastating dealing with that kind of a loss. But I think all of us collectively are doing our best to be optimistic about the situation and do what we can to stay in touch.
So you're kind of looking back with all of this, especially coming in as a transfer student. I know that an international student, that can sometimes be a little difficult on its own. You're coming in, you do have that accident to deal with in the spring, so it's kind of shook up your world a little bit before all of this started. What have you learned during all of this?
I think my biggest lesson during all of this, there's a quote that I stumbled upon, and it essentially goes, you never know that a chapter's ended until you turn that last page. And that's really how I felt about all of this. You really can't take anything for granted at all. Like, you really, really never know how good something is until you're, stepping back and looking at it. So, I mean, it's definitely made me way more grateful for the simplest of things. Like, even just like hugging my grandma. Like, I haven't been able to, you know what I mean? Like, all those little things that you have to be so cautious about, and you never really know when next you'll get that kind of an experience. So it's definitely made me a lot more grateful for just the simplest of things at this point. So I'm trying to be positive about it in any way I can, but things can be really tricky in these kind of times.
The little things are definitely important. It's great to appreciate those. I mean, we can't say enough good things about the tennis team between their success on the court, the community service, which I keep on mentioning because it's amazing, just their involvement in the community. Going into your sophomore year, what do you look forward to the most?
I don't think I could pick one thing, to be honest. I'm really excited to be back. Even just being back on campus and being in that atmosphere. I mean, when I first got to Molloy, it was a bit of a transition because I'm very involved in my family, and so being away from home, being really homesick, and all of that stuff was difficult. But now that I'm away for so long, and like I'm missing my friends, and I'm missing all the projects and the community service and just the simple stuff of being on campus, I'm definitely just looking forward to being back and being around everybody and attending campus events and being around my team. Yeah, there's a lot to look forward to, though, for sure.
I think sometimes it makes it easier to kind of do the waiting because you know what's coming.
It's going to be worth it. Yeah.
Exactly. So we're going to kind of switch gears a little bit and do more, we like to call them rapid fire questions. Is kind of whoever the first instinctual answer off the top of your head is. You can feel free to explain them more, or if you don't want to, that's totally fine too. Okay. What's your go-to pregame meal?
For me, I'm usually really, really health conscious in terms of what I'm eating. So match days are my excuse to just eat way too much. So usually I have like yogurt, fruits, toast, granola bars, maybe a protein shake. I kind of overdo it on a match day, but I mean, we're expending so much energy that doesn't really matter.
Very nice. Who's the funniest member on the team?
Funniest? I definitely have to say Hannah. You never really know what you're gonna get with Hannah, which is why she's enjoyable to be around. It's always a good time with her. So yeah.
So what's your go-to warm-up song? What gets you going?
Depends on my mood, but in Jamaica there's a genre called soca. And I mean, it's not so much Jamaica, it's more like a Caribbean-wide thing. But it's very, very festive and upbeat, and that usually helps me get pumped before a match.
Very nice. If you guys took any road trips this year, who are your roommates on the road?
We took one road trip, well, that required an overnight. I stayed with Hannah and my actual, like, regular roommate, Sarah. So, I mean, I'm accustomed to living with Sarah, but like I said, Hannah's a pretty funny person. So, I mean, it's definitely an interesting experience getting to spend that much time with them. But definitely good fun.
So if you could play any other sport at Molloy, which one would you pick?
To be honest, I'm not very coordinated when it comes to other sports. I did play a season of volleyball in my first and last season of volleyball, my senior year of high school, and that was really fun. I mean, the tennis serve kind of translates into volleyball, and that's pretty much all I have going for me. But it was good fun for sure.
You mentioned earlier in the interview you're watching a ton of Netflix. What show or shows are you watching?
I've watched a lot since I've been back, but currently I'm watching Lucifer. I'm almost done the season. It's an okay show. I'd recommend it if you're into that kind of supernatural type show. I was just running low on things to watch because I've watched so many now.
What's your favorite things you've watched since this started?
I'm a big fan of this show called Sense8 on Netflix. They discontinued it, so I rewatched a season that I really liked because it's definitely my favorite show. I'd recommend it to anyone.
Who's your favorite professional athlete?
I don't think I have a favorite per se. There are a lot of athletes that I look up to. Like there are specific qualities within them that I find really admirable. I think right now, off the top of my head, I'd probably say Noah Rubin. He's like a Long Island native, and he's reached out to the tennis team before. He's a pro tennis player, and he has this great podcast that essentially discusses like the mental aspects of tennis, and it goes into how tennis players are dealing with the whole pandemic, and it's very comforting to listen to. So I think I'd say him right now.
Very nice. And you guys are lucky playing at Molloy. You have ITAs every year when you get to play in the United Tennis Center in Flushing when they play the U.S. Open. But if you had to choose one of the 4 Grand Slams to play in, which one will you pick?
That's such a tough question. I wouldn't say the U.S. Open because fortunately, like you said, we do get to play on those courts. Maybe Wimbledon because I think it's a very elaborate kind of setup, and I like how formal things feel. So if I could ever really have that experience, it would definitely be out in England on the grass courts.
Change it up a little bit, get to play in grass too, which is nice.
Definitely.
Awesome. Well, thank you for taking the time to talk to us. We hope that you continue to keep busy, and we're looking forward to seeing you back on campus.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Anytime.
Thank you. Stay well.
You too.
Bye.